You keep putting off and procrastinating your language practice, not because you're lazy, not because you're busy, but because your brain has been rewired to reject the thing you actually want to do. And unless you understand what's happening inside your skull right now, you'll keep sabotaging yourself forever. So here's the reality. Every time you choose TikTok over Spanish, Netflix over your listening practice, and scrolling over studying, you are not just wasting time. You are training your brain to crave noise, to need stimulation, to run from silence. And language learning? That requires silence, focus, boredom even, which is exactly what your brain now interprets as pain. Let me show you what I mean. There's a phenomenon neuroscientists call the tolerance trap. It works like this. Your brain has a baseline level of stimulation that it expects. Every time you hit that level, you feel normal. Every time you go below it, you feel restless, uncomfortable, like something's missing. Now here's the trap. This baseline isn't fixed. It actually adjusts, and it adjusts upward based on what you feed it. So if you spend your days switching between Instagram, YouTube, texts, emails, Reddit, Twitter, your brain learns to expect that level of stimulation constantly. It builds a tolerance. And when you sit down to do something slower, something quieter, like reading in your target language or working through a comprehensive exercise, your brain doesn't just find it boring, it finds it intolerable because you've raised the floor. And now anything below that floor feels like deprivation. But today I encourage you to finish what you start, and this will then roll over into your language learning. Finish this video and actually take the valuable tips from it. But here's the second problem with respect to the tolerance that we're trying to build. Even if you know this, you can't just force yourself to sit there and suffer through it, because there's another mechanism at play. I call it the escape velocity. Here is how it works. Your brain is always calculating effort versus reward. And when it detects that something requires high effort for delayed or uncertain reward, it generates what we can call friction signals: restlessness, discomfort, distraction, doubt. Your brain is trying to redirect you towards activities with faster, clearer payoffs. And if you've been feeding it fast payoffs for months or years, your friction threshold is really, really low, meaning even moderate effort feels unbearable. So when you sit down to practice your target language, something that requires sustained attention, delayed gratification, and zero instant dopamine, you're asking your brain to overcome massive internal resistance. You need enough momentum to break through that layer of friction. And most people never generate it. They sit down, feel the friction, interpret it as "I'm not in the mood," and bail over and over for years. My suspicion is this is why I get so many comments saying comprehensible input doesn't work for me. It's because you've sat down for 15 or 20 minutes, not realizing that it can take years. Again, depending on how much time you invest every day. Okay, now, all of this said, let me give you the first tough pill to swallow. You are not always going to feel like doing it. You are waiting for motivation, for the right mood, for some magical moment when language learning feels easy and exciting. It's not coming, because your brain has been conditioned to avoid exactly this kind of work. So if you're waiting to feel like it, you're gonna be waiting forever. The only way out is to do this without feeling like it. To sit down, feel the friction, and move forward anyway. Not because you're tough, but because you understand that the discomfort is temporary and that it fades, that your brain will adjust, but only if you let it. Now, here's the second tough pill. You've been training yourself to quit. Every time you sit down, feel friction, and then open your phone or switch tasks, you're reinforcing a neural pathway. So now, even when you want to study, even when you plan to study, your brain has a preloaded response. Discomfort equals escape. It's automatic. It's kind of like the way some kids just hated reading as a kid, and now, even as an adult, even though they know reading is valuable, they just avoid it every single time they sit down to read. And this problem, you can't think your way out of it. You can only train your brain out of it by sitting with the discomfort, by not escaping, by proving to your brain that this activity is safe, that it's survivable, and that it's worth doing over and over until the pathway weakens. So now let's talk about how to actually do that. Because I'm not going to tell you something like just focus harder or be more disciplined. Instead, I'm going to give you a system, a way to work with your brain's design instead of fighting it. All right, so let's get started. Step one is lower the floor. You need to reduce your baseline stimulation. And the fastest way to do that is to create a stimulation budget for the hour before you study. No social media, no YouTube, no rapid task switching, just one thing at a time, slowly. Yes, it'll feel boring, and that's the point. If you try to go from TikTok to textbook in 30 seconds, your brain will riot. But if you ease into it, if you give yourself 20 or 30 minutes of low stimulation activity first, you lower the friction. Step 2 is to ritualize the start. Your brain loves patterns. So if you do the same small action every time before you start your language practice, same time, same place, same opening move, you're building a startup sequence. It could be putting your phone in another room. It could be opening your notebook and writing the date. It really doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you're consistent with it. Because once your brain recognizes the pattern, it begins preparing. The friction drops. Not because you're more motivated, but because the behavior is becoming automatic. And automaticity is more powerful than motivation. Much more powerful. Step 3 is commit to 5 minutes, nothing more. Here's the thing, you're not actually afraid of doing the work. You're afraid of how long it's going to take, how hard it's going to feel, how much effort it's going to require. So don't commit to a full hour. Don't even commit to finishing a lesson. Just commit to 5 minutes. That's it. And here's what happens. About 80% of the time, once you start, you keep going because the hardest part isn't the work, it's just getting started. And you've probably heard that before. Once you're in motion though, your brain shifts gears and the friction begins to fade. Step 4 is to track momentum, not perfection. Stop measuring yourself by how much you learned or how well you performed. Start measuring yourself by whether you showed up. Now this sounds like rainbows and unicorns, but it really isn't. This is super, super powerful because showing up is the only thing that requires your brain. Showing up is the only thing that proves to your nervous system that this is safe, that this is survivable, and again, that this is worth doing. Every day you sit down, even for 5 minutes, mark it. That's a win. And over time, those wins accumulate. Your brain begins to recognize the pattern, the resistance drops, and the friction dissolves. Step 5, and I've mentioned this step in other videos actually, is to protect your environment. You're gonna hate to hear this, but your phone is not your friend here. If it's in the room, it's pulling focus. If it's in your hand, you've already lost. So put it somewhere else, in another room, another floor, in a drawer with a 10-second delay. It doesn't matter where. What matters is that it's not within arm's reach. Because every time you resist the urge to check it, you're strengthening your ability to tolerate friction. You're training your brain to sit down with discomfort instead of escaping it. And that skill, that tolerance, is what separates people who make progress from people who stay stuck. Now, here's the thing that a lot of people are going to skim over. This isn't about grinding harder or punishing yourself into fluency. It's about giving your brain the conditions it needs to actually learn. So the real question here isn't how do I stay motivated? The real question is how do I create the conditions where my brain can actually function? And luckily for you, the answer is quite simple. And we covered it here today in this video. Lower the noise, ritualize the start, commit to 5 minutes, track the streak, protect the environment. Do that and the procrastination begins to dissolve. Now, if you want help building a full system, one that handles not just the procrastination, but all the other bottlenecks that keep most people stuck, then take a look at the link in the description or the pinned comment. That's where I personally work with people directly to become conversationally fluent in a new language in just 200 days. Not by grinding harder, but by designing smarter systems. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helped you today, and I will see you in the next one.